Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, February 18, 2020. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Leader of the opposition New Democratic Party, Dr. Godwin Friday, claims the government continues to illegally exceed the limit of overdraft borrowing, which he said has put the country's finances in limbo. Dr. Friday was speaking at a press conference earlier today where he noted that the government shows little or no regards for the laws governing financial accountability and financial management.
This conversion of part of the overdraft into an ongoing loan was simply done as an arrangement between the government and the bank. We found out about it in a footnote, basically at the end of the estimates of that year. No resolution under Section 44 was done in that year in order to borrow that money as part of the ongoing stock of public debt. As it turned out, the actual outturn for 2017 was a total overdraft of 57.4 million, plus the 40 million that had been converted into the loan. So it would have been over $97 million had they not converted part of it into an illegal loan, a loan without parliamentary approval.
While noting that the use of overdraft borrowing is allowed by law, the opposition leader said there are certain procedures which must be followed and claimed that the government acted unlawfully in three essential ways in this area.
First is by exceeding the limit, which was set by Parliament. Now it's $50 million. We've seen routinely it goes above that. There is no authority to do that. I mean, it could be 50, 60, 70, $100 million. We say it got almost to $97 million in 1 year. It's also been acting unlawfully by not paying down the overdraft as intended when the money comes in to put it back, to pay it down as required by law. We see that the loans are set out in the law. Now just don't, no matter what anybody says, that's what the law says. If we don't like it, we change the law. But that's what it says. It's expected that that money would essentially be paid down by the end of December. That is never done. And then thirdly, more egregiously, by converting the overdraft as an ongoing loan called the Accountant General Loan.
Dr. Friday further accused the government of being reckless with its borrowing, which he said is costing the people of this country, who are the ones paying for the debt.
This is something that needs to be looked at. If you check, you will see that between 2016 and 2020, the debt service as a proportion of current revenue, which is paid out of taxpayers' money that is raised, has gone from 25.1% in 2016 to this year 39.3%. That's the fastest growth I've ever seen in the debt service payments in this country. For the past 10 years, it's hovered somewhere between 23, 24, 25%. And this year, it's 39. Almost 40 cents out of every dollar goes to service the debt. The debt is now currently $267 million annually that the government must pay, and it has to be paid.
On radio on Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves used the opportunity to respond to the opposition leader's allegation, which he first made during the recent budget debate and again at today's news conference. In his Plain Talk newspaper column last Friday, Speaker of the House Jomo Thomas described the opposition leader's comments on the government's handling of the country's finances as the biggest story coming out of the 2020 budget debate. The Prime Minister noted that Thomas had observed in his article that neither he nor the Finance Minister had responded to the opposition leader's allegation that while the Finance Administration Act allows the government an annual overdraft of $50 million at commercial banks, the government has routinely exceeded this limit. For his part, the Prime Minister said he did not hear the comments made by the opposition leader in Parliament, and the Finance Minister didn't think that it was worthy of responding to.
Friday is in error. Friday's point was that we go beyond the overdraft, and that's one breach of the law. And then we proceed to transform part of the overdraft into a loan, which is also contrary to the law, because there is no approval for that loan. On several counts, Friday is wrong, and Jomo took Friday's word at it. Let's begin.
The Prime Minister said on several counts the opposition leader was wrong on the issues.
Friday used figures to say that, look, there's a number showing an overdraft. I haven't looked at the number, but of 81 million. And the resolution is 50 million. But the number which Friday is talking about in 2014, the overdraft number then was 75 million. We reduced the overdraft number down to 35 and then carried to 50, but it was 75.
The Prime Minister said the opposition leader is also wrong when he said that the overdraft must be zeroed at the end of each financial year.
This year is $100 million. We don't have to go. If I go and borrow money from the bank in St. Vincent, once I stay within all the monies which you borrowed within $100 million, I'm okay. I'm not talking the overdraft now, which is a separate issue.
Yes.
You understand me?
Yes.
So, if I have the overdraft, if I have an overdraft, if I have 75 million as an overdraft, and I'm paying 14% on the overdraft, I say, you know what happened? I'm going to transform that half of that overdraft
into a loan.
So I can pay 8%.
Yeah, smart. Smart money management.
I don't have to come and get approval for that loan. So long as I stay within the framework of the 100 million or whatever for that year, I can borrow locally.
The Prime Minister is currently in Barbados, attended the 31st intersessional meeting of the heads of government of the Caribbean community, CARICOM. The two-day meeting, which opens earlier today at the Lloyd Oskin Sandiford Center, is expected to include on its agenda a bilateral engagement between the Government of Canada, represented by its foreign minister, and the regional organization. While in Barbados, PM Gonzalez is expected to hold a number of bilateral meetings with representatives from other countries as well as international organizations. SVG's delegation to the meeting includes Ambassador to CARICOM and Director of the Regional Integration and Diaspora Unit, Alan Alexander, and the Budget Director in the Ministry of Finance, Kendrick Morris. The delegation is expected back in the state tomorrow. Which rumors circulated over the weekend about the possibility of the coronavirus and SVG, which has since been dismissed by the health authorities. Opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday said it shows there needs to be better communication in keeping the public informed on such a serious health matter. At today's press conference, Dr. Friday said that the increasing death toll in China, the epicenter of the disease, is public knowledge, and Vincentians need to be kept abreast with any new developments locally in a timely manner.
Constantly on the alert for new developments, and that is the situation with respect to the coronavirus. There is great public concern about the coronavirus, the potential risks that it poses to us here in St. Vincent, and about our country's level of preparedness to deal with those risks. The alarm that was initially raised when a cruise ship was allowed to dock at Port Kingstown but was not permitted to dock in other Caribbean ports as a precautionary measure. That set off basically alarm bells among the public.
17 persons are said to be in quarantine, and the opposition leader said lack of information and knowledge can create more harm than good, hence the need for the relevant authorities to keep the public informed.
The health officials must keep the public constantly informed about any new developments and about the measures that are implemented to prevent the virus from becoming a health problem in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's no exaggeration to say that information is key. It is key to preventing speculation and panic among our people. I mean, some of the comments I've heard from people who are genuine, who are concerned, they make me realize that there is much more that the government ought to be doing about this. The government needs to do a better job of informing the public and of preparing for any appearance of the virus here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Fitz Bramble has been nominated to replace Anim Eustace as the NDP's candidate for East Kingstown in the upcoming general elections. This was confirmed by leader of the NDP, Dr. Godwin Friday, at today's press conference. Dr. Friday said it is now left up to the Central Committee to ratify, noting that he has confidence Bramble will retain the seat for the NDP.
I am confident that the committee will ratify the constituency's selection and that Mr. Bramble will be the new candidate for East Kingstown in the next general elections. The NDP continues to attract talented and committed people as candidates for elections and to fill other roles on behalf of the party. As the leader of the party, for me, this is very gratifying, and it helps us to be in a position to serve the people of this country effectively from day one of a new NDP administration.
Dr. Friday said another new candidate to be ratified is Chieftain Neptune, who will be challenging Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves for the North Central Windward constituency.
We have the two candidates that we have to ratify now. The candidate, as you know, from North Central Windward, Mr. Neptune. Yeah, Chieftain Neptune. He was nominated by the constituency some time ago. I'm very excited about that. A young man who has a lot of potential and appeal in that area, and so we hope to have his ratification at the same time as Bramble's. And when anybody expresses an interest in becoming a candidate for the New Democratic Party, I take that very seriously, because I am very pleased that people see in the New Democratic Party a brighter future for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and this is what I understand from the other persons who were interested in running, and they have done considerable work in going out and spreading the message of the New Democratic Party and showing their interest in the New Democratic Party, and they will continue to do so.
General election is widely expected later this year. Mediation is said to be useful and a cost-effective means of settling conflicts, and Vincentians are being encouraged to make use of this method to resolve their disputes. This was emphasized at the launch of a community mediation service point for SVG today under the Impact Justice Project at the Ministry of Health Conference Room. The Impact Justice Project is funded by the Canadian government as a justice sector reform project with the aim of improving access to justice in the Caribbean. Impact Justice views community mediation as an effective mechanism for alternative dispute resolution in Vincentian communities. Giving an overview of the Impact Justice Project and the Community Mediation Service Point was Regional Project Director of Impact Justice, Professor Velma Newton, who highlighted some of the benefits of this form of alternative dispute resolution.
Community mediation is used to resolve disputes before they escalate. It is used to maintain harmony in the community and resolve cases at that level. We are now getting our feet wet, so to speak, by offering community mediation services in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we will do so to the best of our ability through local mediators to make Vincentians aware of this program and of the benefits that they will that will accrue to them if they use community mediation. I personally also hope that each of you here today will do the same, and that Vincentians who have minor disputes with neighbors or others who cannot afford to go to court, who do not want to go to court, who are looking for speedy resolution to their problems, will make use of the community mediation option.
Mediator and lawyer Mandela Peters said today's launch of SVG's Community Mediation Service Point is an important development in the nation's history. She said while there is much room for improvement, this form of mediation is the way to go, and use the opportunity to highlight some success stories.
There was a matter that we were recently involved in last year. The matter was filed in the High Court since 2004. In 2004, I just graduated from high school. I had no dreams that a matter in that year that I would be involved with it in 2019. Yet it was still going on through the courts for that length of time. It was a land dispute. And through mediation, in 1 or 2 afternoons of discussions and a site visit, we were able to resolve that conflict. I also participated in the mediation as a mediator recently, where there was a matrimonial dispute, and the lawyers, they were doubtful as to whether this matter could have been solved. They had tried negotiations, tried, and through mediation, it took time to go through, the process, but through mediation, the parties were able to come together and achieve an amicable settlement of their issues. So those examples are just to give real example that mediation works.
Confidentiality and fairness are among some of the ingredients that will lead to the success of the mediation process. And Campbell gave the assurance that community mediators will do their work with a high degree of professionalism.
We shall also ensure that the parties understand the nature of the process, the procedures, our particular roles, and the parties' relationship to us as mediators and to each other. And I took the time to give these pledges so that the public would be ensured that this process is one that can be trusted and one that should be utilized. And I made this pledge on behalf of Mrs. Bailey and I, and also on behalf of future community mediators who will be a part of this process. As well as we go along, I am looking forward to a future where community mediation is on the forefront of all of the minds of the citizens, and in every community we can see different points being established where persons can resolve their disputes amicably. We believe that mediation works, and we eagerly look forward to serving the citizens of this nation who would seek to engage our services to assist with the settlement of their disputes.
Adaptation to the effects of climate change is key in building more resilient communities. And with this in mind, some 20 persons are participating in a 2-day training workshop which seeks to increase resilience and reduce vulnerability to climate change impacts through introduction of adaptation measures in fisheries management and capacity building of fisherfolk and aquaculture farmers here and throughout the Eastern Caribbean. The workshop is being held under the Climate Change Adaptation in the Eastern Caribbean Fisheries Sector project. Speaking at the opening of the workshop today, representative of the Caribbean Natural Resource Institute, Canary, which is undertaking the regional implementation of a vulnerability and capacity assessment, Dr. Anika Grandison, who said the training exercise will be a combination of theoretical and practical work.
We've also invited people from Backway and other places so that they can get training, so they can support similar work like this in the future, to do vulnerability capacity assessments on island with limited technical support from us. So we're really trying to do a training of trainers, so you all are trained up on how to do this and can conduct your own assessments. So for the objectives for the workshop, we have a number of activities to do under this phase, but the first one we're doing is we're actually establishing field teams that will be going out and doing the vulnerability and capacity assessments in these 3 target communities. And so our objectives for this workshop are these: to basically help you all understand what is vulnerability, what's the role and value of doing vulnerability and capacity assessments, or VCAs for short. Understanding the process and the various tools. We actually have a toolkit of about 15 tools. We're not going to go through all of the tools, but we'll be highlighting specific ones that we think will work very effectively in this local context.
National Project Coordinator Hayden Bilingi said awareness of climate change impacts and vulnerabilities is key in building resilience, and the use of ICT is key in this regard. He highlighted some initiatives undertaken to boost the capacity of local fisherfolk.
I think today this is why we are here, to look at some of the areas we are vulnerable in and building the capacity where needed to ensure that we can be resilient to the impacts of climate change. The other outcome for this project is improving resilience of fisherfolk and coastal communities, basically, and we are looking at strengthening their capacity in ICT, which relates to the use of equipment. We've just done a training recently related to safety at sea, and we look at how they use a handheld GPS to navigate the oceans. We looked at how they can use a VCF radio to communicate well when they are in emergency. So we're looking at strengthening the capacity so that they're resilient to the impacts of climate change. The other outcome that we have is to also look at training them in business skills, also relating to early warning and emergency response systems that are important in ensuring the safety of our fishermen.
New and innovative ideas can also help to facilitate climate change resilience, and Bilingi took the opportunity to highlight one such idea which is being examined.
In terms of improved resilience of aquaculturists, we're looking at how we can strengthen the capacity of local individuals to look at farming fish on land, where we have a system of fishing and agriculture, where we plant crops, where there's an interchange of ecosystem, and where it could lead to sustainability at a small household or community level. So we're looking at training a few of our fishermen, fisherfolk in this particular area. So at the end of the day, we want to ensure that our fisherfolk are aware of what's going on and that they can adapt and they can become resilient to the impacts of climate change. So this is what we are looking at principally today.